All right, let's get right into it. We're going to uncover this really critical hidden link between two massive global conflicts. It's a connection that could literally decide the fate of Ukraine, and honestly, most people are completely missing it. Yeah, this quote really just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? While everyone's eyes are glued to the front lines, there's this second, almost invisible war being fought over the supply lines. And that is what this is all about. So that's the big question, right? You've got these two wars, thousands of miles apart. How on earth are they so dangerously connected? Well, it all comes down to one single, incredibly fragile, overstretched supply chain. Okay, so let's talk about that connection. It's this one single point of failure, the Patriot missile pipeline. So what exactly is this system? The Patriot is, America's top-tier air defense weapon. But here's the absolutely crucial part. It's the only system out there that can shoot down advanced ballistic missiles. For cities like Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Odessa, this thing is literally the only shield standing between civilians and what Russia is throwing at them from the sky. And this is where the vulnerability really starts to show. I mean, these interceptors, they're not just something you can grab off a shelf. They're incredibly complex, and they're made at a painfully slow rate. Every time one is fired, it can take months to build a new one. And you can see the whole problem laid out right here. You've got this limited production line feeding into one finite US stockpile. But now, that single stockpile is being drained by two wars at the exact same time. The very same missiles needed to protect US forces in the Middle East, they're the exact same ones needed to keep the lights on in Ukrainian cities. It's the same bucket of water for two fires. And look, this isn't some kind of abstract, theoretical problem for 10 years down the road. No, the consequences of this stretched supply line, they're being felt on the front lines, right now, today. You have President Zelenskyy making this really stark public plea, and this came after weeks of him warning people behind closed doors. He basically toured Europe with one simple urgent message. The pipeline is running dry. We need these interceptors now, because Russia isn't going to wait for us to catch up. 700. Just let that sink in. That's how many drones and missiles Russia launched in just one massive attack wave recently. So think about that. That's the terrifying reality Ukraine is up against, while its air defense stocks are just dwindling away. At the end of the day, it's just unsustainable math. It's simple arithmetic. Ukraine is firing these irreplaceable missiles way faster than they can be replaced. And with every single one, their defensive shield just gets a little bit thinner. What we're looking at here is a textbook example of a classic military problem. It's called strategic overextension, and it forces you into a series of just truly impossible choices. And this is the key to understanding it. It's not one big, dramatic collapse. It's more like a slow-motion crisis, right? It's this gradual pile-up of bad options, where every decision you make, where doing the right thing over here actively hurts your ability to do the right thing over there. And here is a perfect real-world example of that. So, to try and ease oil markets that were getting squeezed by the conflict in the Middle East, the US waived some sanctions on Russian oil. Okay, in that one context, you can kind of see the logic, right? But what's the consequence? Russia gets more oil money to fund the very same missile program that Ukraine is desperately trying to defend against. It's a totally impossible choice. So you do have Europe trying to step in and fill the gap, and that's great. Germany, Norway, Italy, they're all putting together new aid packages. But, and this is a huge but, there's always a catch. All of this stuff, the procurement, the training, the delivery, it all takes months. And frankly, those are months Ukraine might not have. Okay, so all of this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, and that's Vladimir Putin's strategic calculus. Because you have to believe he understands this math perfectly. So it makes you wonder, right? Why this sudden massive escalation from Russia? Did they suddenly get a whole lot stronger overnight? The answer is no, not really. Russia isn't necessarily stronger. They're just being opportunistic. They've done the math, they've calculated that US attention and more importantly, US munitions are divided. They've identified this stretched supply chain as a massive vulnerability, and so they're pushing as hard as they possibly can right now, while the world is looking the other way. And if you need any more proof, just look at the timing. That massive 700 drone attack we talked about, it was launched on the exact night that the entire world was glued to the news coming out of the Middle East. That is not a coincidence. That is strategy. So that's where we are. Two wars, one incredibly fragile supply chain, and a Ukraine that is running out of the one thing that keeps its people alive when those missiles start to fall. It just leaves you with one question, really. How long can that single lifeline possibly hold?